Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Connor Newman. I'm with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I serve as one of the deputy directors for ONS. Specifically, I oversee the community engagement team that facilitates the public meetings. In this circumstance, we have a proposal here for 5 Redlands Road. The proposal does not conform with the existing zoning code. So as a result, that triggers this community process. Eventually, they're going to meet with the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council, and then they'd go on to the Zoning Board of Appeals and try to get zoning variances granted to proceed with the project. We obviously have a lot of interest here tonight. I can see with the number of people who are attending. If you would like to be kept in the loop going forward for this project, please reach out. Ben's contact information is on the flyer. We'll create a listserv to keep people updated as the project continues. There's no decisions being made here tonight. The purpose of these meetings is one, for residents, particularly abutters, to find out what's being proposed and offer feedback and ask questions. From the mayor's office standpoint, we like to see that the applicant is working with residents to address questions and concerns that they may have. So we'll go through a quick presentation and then we can open up for questions and comments and spend the majority of the meeting focused on soliciting those public comments. Molly, I don't if there's someone from your team that would like to share their screen, please let me know and I can give them access and we can start with the presentation.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Horan. I'm a managing director at IMG in Boston, and I'm working with the owner of the property at 5 Redlands Road. We have a number of folks here from the team to make sure that we can appropriately answer all of the different questions that might come tonight. We have Alexander Burke from Blue Rock, which is the owner of the property. Blue Rock has been in the real estate industry for roughly 40 years in Greater Boston, with expertise in constructing and managing residential property in the Greater Boston area. We also have several team members from Making Opportunity Count on the phone today. We have Colby O'Brien, we have Jeff Handler, and Renata Brito. Mock is an approved vendor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, providing shelter services, and they manage multiple locations across the state. We also have Paul Rufo, who is our legal counsel and helping with the zoning application that we're here to discuss tonight. As I said, we wanted to make sure we had the right mix of folks to answer the questions, hear your feedback. Excited to see all the participation tonight. And with that, I think I'll hand it over to Paul first to talk a little bit about the legal perspective, and then we're going to have Mock jump in on sort of what we're proposing for the site, and we'll try to get into questions as quickly as we can. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Molly. Hi, folks. My name is Paul Rufo, as Molly mentioned, and I'm an attorney in Boston with Smith, Duggan, Cornell, and Golub, down on 101 Arch Street. And I specialize in giving legal advice on zoning projects. And my job tonight is to sort of set the scene, if you will, for the legal parameters for the project and how that all works. Forgive me if it's boring or if it's confusing, but I'll do my best both to be brief and hopefully understandable. So this project at 5 Redlands Road in West Roxbury involves the renovation of a former nursing home facility to a congregate living facility. And those two phrases are defined uses in the zoning code, Boston zoning code. The applicant, which is Alex Burke and his dad, Rob, who are the owners of the property, have applied to for permit, if you will, to use the property as a congregate living facility. So specifically within the zoning code, the Inspectional Services Department gets a set of plans and they review it, and then they determine whether there are any zoning code relief that is necessary. And in this case, the Inspectional Services Department issued a zoning code refusal letter on June 6, 2025, citing basically one issue, and that is, if you will, from a legal zoning point of view, the one narrow zoning code relief that triggers this process of going to the Zoning Board of Appeal, and as a result, going to the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services to hold this abutters meeting, et cetera. So that's sort of the legal process. Just another word on process, and Connor will, I'm sure, explain it to you as well. After the abutters meeting, we will likely file an application or an appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals for relief on this one issue, which I'll explain in a second. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals will schedule a hearing. It'll be a public hearing, and they'll render a decision, and it'll go from there. So that's sort of a broad outline what the process is. Now, the narrow legal issue that has triggered this process is the Inspectional Services zoning code refusal. And under the zoning code for this property in West Roxbury is Article 56 of the Boston Zoning Code. Just a bit of history. This property was first granted relief from a zoning code, a previous zoning code, on April 25th, 1962, for the construction of a nursing home. You folks in the community, and I'm familiar with the community myself. I used to live in West Roxbury, et cetera. This place, this 5 Redlands, was a nursing home from 1962, roughly, until just recently. So that relief was under a prior zoning code. Now, in 1994, the West Roxbury zoning code was revised, August 23, 1994, and this Article 56 was created. At that time, this parcel, 5 Redlands, was zoned as a neighborhood business subdistrict. And that's significant because, first of all, there was an existing nursing home there, had been operating for 32 years, apparently, at that point. And also the zoning code from 1994 that's still in effect today, provided a couple of things about what can be used, what the property can be used for in a neighborhood business subdistrict. In fact, this area specifically, a subdistrict, is a neighborhood shopping district. Okay, so within that, within the zoning code, Article 56, there are tables that list nursing home, for example, as a use, and congregate living complex as a use. In 1994, a neighborhood in a neighborhood business subdistrict, a nursing home was a conditional use. But since it had already, and it still is, since it had already been in existence, it was a pre-existing conditional use that had already been granted relief. So there was nothing that needed to be done at that time. In 1994, the zoning code also provided that a congregate living complex, as it's described in the code, is an allowed use. It's an allowed use under Table B, which is provided for in the section is section 56-15 of that article, which is use regulations applicable in neighborhood business subdistricts. Okay, but Table B of Article 56-15 has a footnote, and has a number of footnotes. And footnote 7 to that table provides that where a use is designated A, which is allowed, an allowed use, provided that I'm just quoting the statute, the regulation. It's not the easiest English, but it says where designated A, provided that where designated A, meaning allowed, it's allowed, the use is allowed, provided that such use is conditional, so C, on the first story. So for a congregate living complex, which is the proposed project for 5 Redlands Road, the first story use is conditional, meaning you need to go to the zoning board of appeal to get permission to use the first floor in that fashion. For the other floors, in this case, the second and third floor, those are allowed uses. So that basically ends my presentation, except to say that the proposal for the first floor is to use the property for a use that is allowed in the zone. So why am I, that sounds kind of circular or redundant, Paul. So why am I saying that? And the answer is because when you go to zoning code permits for conditional uses, and one of the factors among its article, section 6.3, and I won't read all of them, but one of the factors that the Zoning Board of Appeal will take into account in considering whether this conditional use, namely the congregate living complex, should be permitted on the first floor of 5 Redlands Road, is the provision in section 6.3 subsection A, which is that is whether or not the specific site is an appropriate location for such use. And I'm just reading it, that's what it says. And what that means, in my judgment, and it's what has meant in my many years of practice, is that if a use is an allowed use in the zone, but it's conditional on the first floor, then that first requirement, again, conditions required for approval, is at least presumed to have been met. So I hope that makes sense. What I'm saying is that the use on the first floor is something that is allowed in the zone. So that's something that the Zoning Board of Appeals will take into account. So I'm sorry for the dry presentation. I hope that made some sense. I'm certainly willing to do my best to answer any questions that you might have about this, but that kind of sets the scene. We're basically looking for one variance or one relief from the Zoning Board of Appeal, which is to allow the first floor to be used in connection with the congregate living complex. Okay, thank you, Molly. I'll turn it back to you to introduce the rest of the team or whoever's going to make the next presentation. And I guess we can hold our questions until all the presentation is done. Is that appropriate?
Yes, I think that's preferred.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Connor.
Hey, in a minute.
That's great. And I think up next is the team from Making Opportunity Count. So Colby, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Molly. I'm going to pass it off to two of my team members to introduce themselves as well. Jeff, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. My name is Jeff Handler, and I'm Chief Program Officer for MOC.
And Renata?
Hi, I'm Renata Brito. I'm the Director of Shelter Operations.
And I'm Colby O'Brien, the Vice President of Programs at Make an Opportunity Count. I'm really happy to be here tonight with this group. This will be our third community meeting where we'll be presenting a little bit of our project and introducing ourselves to those who do not know us. And I think it's important that we start with just a brief overview of the agency and our history working with vulnerable populations as a community action agency. So I'll turn it over to Jeff just to speak a little bit about us, and then we'll talk about the 5 Redlands project.
Thanks, Colby. So Making Opportunity Count is a private nonprofit. We're what we call a community action agency. We were created in 1964, part of the Johnson's administration's war on poverty.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, Jeff, if you could speak up a bit, that'd be great.
All right, let me raise my volume. Maybe that'll help. Is that better? Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Sounds muffled.
Well, I don't know what else to do, to be honest with you. I'll try to speak slowly. As I mentioned, MOC is a private nonprofit. We're a community action agency. We were established in '64 as part of the Johnson's War on Poverty, programs like CETA, Head Start, Model City. But since then, obviously, state and federal governments have grown, and we have grown as well. We operate dozens of programs: WIC, Head Start, childcare, fuel assistance, energy programs, youth programs, family programs, parenting programs, workforce development, behavioral health, reproductive health. We operate subsidized housing, about 62 units in the state. And of course, family shelters, which includes a handful of hotel shelters that we are in the process of closing. They'll all be closed by the end of July. So we are not unfamiliar with this business. We take it very seriously. Our goal, we are a vendor. It's important to understand that we are not the state. We're not a state agency. We are contracting with the vendor. I'm sorry, we're contracting as a vendor with the state, a vendor in good standing. We've been very successful. We feel that we operate some of the best facilities in the state. And I think that's partly why the state selected us for this site. I'll turn it over to Colby, and we can talk a little more about our shelter system and our history.
Thanks, Jeff. So Five Redlands is targeted to open middle of next month. We've been working with Alex and team on the construction side of it, making sure that the site meets our needs in terms of moving the 48 families in at some point over the course of the summer. We will have 24/7 staff on site and security, which will be supported by a team of managers, directors, and senior leaders. On each shift, we will have we call them residential counselors on site to manage the building security, physical presence. We will have maintenance on site, and we also have a full-fledged case management team of 3 case managers and a manager of case management to support the families with really wraparound services in terms of rehousing, supporting them to find work, supporting them to acquire benefits, and really just be rehoused and back into the community. And so families that come to this program, they are they're referred by HLC, Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They're all families, and so some part of their family has a child under the age of 18, and that's how you become eligible. They are your neighbors. These are families fleeing domestic violence. These are families that lost their house in a fire. These are families that just fell in hard times where mom or dad lost their job and they lost housing, and then they're entered into the system in terms of going through HLC to be placed into one of our shelters. As Jeff said, we do manage 10 other shelters, and some of them are hotels and are closing in the next month or so. And at the height, we've managed about 650 shelter units. So we are very experienced in terms of managing a very large portfolio of families. This site in particular will be 48 units that will be available for families. And so everything we do is trauma informed. We work with the community. We partner with other agencies and other organizations that also support similar work that we're doing, whether it's food pantries or community civic organizations, medical. We make sure people are going to their appointments and making sure that families that have kids, they're going to school. We work very closely with the school districts in every site that we're in. But really, it's important that we partner with the community. We do these meetings. We have had a launch meeting of our community advisory group. That was last week. We're going to have another one in July. We also had a launch meeting in terms of a community meeting with HLC a couple months ago now. And that was another meeting for us to introduce ourselves and really just talk about the work and partnership that we have. And so, we're available for any questions. We will have some time at the end, of course, to talk about the program. But overall, this meeting is really about the first floor in terms of the zoning issue that is in front of us. And so any zoning questions, certainly Paul can answer, and Jeff, Renata can answer any programmatic questions in terms of how we're supporting families on site. And Molly, I'll kick it back to you because I know you're kind of coordinating the agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Colby. And Jeff, appreciate it. So I think that that kind of covers the overview. Obviously, we want to use as much time as possible to get to questions and feedback from the group. So Connor, I think you were planning to moderate the Q&A portion, so we can hand it over to you and just dive in wherever you'd like.
Okay, sure. Before I do so, though, I do want to recognize our elected officials and their staffers that are in attendance. We have Mark from City Councilor Weber's office. If you want to drop your contact info in the chat, Mark, as well as Sean from Senator Rush's office. We'll go now to questions and comments. So obviously we have a lot of people on here tonight, 69 participants. Oh,
Sorry, Connor, you forgot Mary Koski with
Yep. Oh, all right. Thank you, Mary. Yep. From Councilor Murphy's office. If you want to drop your contact information in the chat, it's common for elected officials to have their staffers testify at the Zoning Board of Appeals hearings. So they'll take a particular interest in this project here. So as I was saying, we have 70 participants on. That's obviously a lot of people. I'd love to make sure that we get to call on everyone. If you would like to.
Sorry, Connor, did you mention that I'm on from Councilor Murphy's office?
I did, yes. I did, Mary. So if you could digitally raise your hand, if you look down below, you'll see a little react. It's a heart. If you click on that, you can digitally raise your hand, and that way I can call on people one at a time. If you're calling in via phone, if you do *9, it does the same thing, where that way I can see who I have in the queue and I can try to get to everyone. We also have the chat as well. You can use questions there. Please use the chat for questions, not for debating back and forth. I'm not here to referee. Comments and questions to be directed either at myself, and I can discuss the city's involvement in this, or it should be comments directed to the applicant as they can discuss what their proposed operations would be. So just want to make that clear. Please also be respectful. Obviously, we're all adults here. All right, I see hands raised. James, you were first, so we'll go with you.
It's fucking ridiculous. What? This meeting.
Carolyn, you're unmuted. James, if you'd like to go, I saw your hand was up. James Carvalho.
Yeah, I just have a question about the first floor there. It sounds like the zoning variance wants to turn that into living space, and it sounds to me as though I've lived in the neighborhood not as long as a lot of people here, 19 years, but it's my guess that the first floor had been used for like admissions, a finance office, physical therapy space, common area for the residents of the nursing home, perhaps some kind of a commissary or a cafeteria. I have no idea what the interior of the place looked like. I know that I'd gone in there once when I was walking down the street one morning and the automatic sprinkler that was in front of the place sprayed me. But I don't know what is on the first floor there in that nursing home right now. It sounds to me as though most of the residents, and if it's my understanding, at one point there might have been about 70 beds in that nursing home. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. So it sounds to me like they might have had 35 or 36 rehab or long-term care patients on the second and third floor, and the first floor was for some of the other uses that I might have mentioned. Is that true?
James, I can answer that question. My name is Alexander Burke. I'm from Blue Rock, which is the entity that owns 5 Redlands. The first floor has many different rooms that could be used for a variety of purposes: amenity space, rehabilitation, living space, office space, kitchen, recreation areas, laundry facilities. So there's a whole variety of uses for that first floor.
And that's primarily what it's been used for in the past, I presume. Mostly administrative and congregate living spaces, physical therapy space. And I'm still a little bit confused about the whole congregate thing. If there's going to be 130 or 40 people in there, is there a kitchen where somebody prepares the meals? Or are there going to be 20 or 30 people down there, trying to use a kitchen, trying to prepare certain typical meals for the family that they happen to eat? How's that going to work?
So there is a full kitchen on the
Okay.
first floor. There's adequate amount of refrigerators, electric stoves, ovens, etc. So people are able to prep their own food as they see fit.
Okay.
And then so just to jump on that question, so let's discuss the first floor. So would there be habitation on the first floor, or would that be the space above the first floor? I think it'd be helpful for people to understand what exactly this operation is. So it was also mentioned proposed 48 units. What would be the occupancy of that, et cetera?
So Colby, do you want to talk about what you would hope, how you'd hope to use the first floor, the number of units you would like to see there versus the second and third floor?
Yeah, I think James kind of spoke about the different uses that were in previously, and some of those uses we didn't see fit for the family shelter in terms of a rehab room or a room that was used for ample storage. And so we looked at the rooms, and we have a certain floor plan that we look at in terms of reviewing to make sure that it meets the needs of our families. As long as we get the proper square footage in terms of moving beds in and making sure that we can actually safely fit families in, we determined that 6 of the rooms in the basement would be sufficient for families to use. And the rest of the basement will keep the same uses. There'll be office space, a conference room, a shared kitchen, a shared dining area, and ample storage and laundry. And so we will, and there's also some bathrooms on that floor as well. And so it will be 6 units in particular in the basement for families.
Now, when you say the basement, are you talking about the first floor? Is that
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, just to clarify that. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Lois, we'll go to you next. Your hand was up after. Lois, you need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. It's Louise. In Article 56, was there a limit to the number of clients in the facility? I would assume that a nursing home or facility like that would have a limit of number of people in regards to fire codes and so forth.
So I just would thank you, Louise, for your question. So the zoning code doesn't provide for occupancy. That's determined in connection with the Inspectional Services Department and the Fire Department, all in doing the building code, and they determine an occupancy, a legal occupancy. I don't know that that's been done as yet. Perhaps Alex or Colby know that, but that would be the certificate of occupancy, which is issued by the Inspectional Services Department.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colby, have you guys been given that by ISD or BFD, or is that something you'd like ONS to look into?
Alex is working on that on his end, and so I can let him answer this. I know there's been some inspectors on site, reviewing some of the pieces that were done. So I'll let that go to Alex.
Connor, when we have more information on that end, I can follow up with you. But as Paul mentioned, everything is, guided by ISD and BFD in terms of, occupancy account.
Understood. Patrick, I saw your hand was raised next. If you'd like to go next.
Sure, yes. My name is Patrick Sherns. My father is a resident at 12 Manthorn Road, an abutting property. And I've been working with some of the neighbors as well to get a handle of sort of the situation and what's being proposed and what we're kind of looking at here. So after reviewing the plan to place a large congregate shelter at 5 Redlands Road, we believe it's clear that this site isn't appropriate for the proposed use. So there are 7 key points I just kind of want to discuss around that. So first is it's not designed or permitted for this use. The building was constructed as a nursing home, not as a shelter for 50 families. It was designed for elderly care with private rooms, not for family living. Converting it into a congregate shelter means putting over 150 people, which is more than the population of the entire street, into a space not built for that scale or type of use. So this is a major change to the use and raises many red flags about the building code, fire safety, and long-term habitability. And I know Article 56 in the table covers congregate use as well as homeless shelters, and also has a definition of homeless shelter, which I believe is homeless or homeless people or transient individuals experiencing homelessness. So there was one other concern we kind of had there, but let me just finish with the points on behalf of several of the neighbors here. Second, the street is unsuitable and limited parking. The street itself is part of the problem. Redlands is a very narrow one-way street that runs uphill with tight turns and extremely limited parking. It is not designed to accommodate increased traffic from staff, service, deliveries, and dozens of families. There's no room for overflow. Service and emergency vehicles will struggle, and the burden will fall on every household nearby. 3, health and sanitation risks. The site has a documented history of sanitation issues, rodents, trash, smoking near property lines when it was a nursing home. And now the plan calls for 50 families to share just a few residential kitchen stoves 24/7. This raises the risk of fire hazards, poor ventilation, food safety issues, and this isn't a facility with a commercial grade kitchen or professional oversight. And these concerns don't seem to be resolved or addressed with any of the meetings we've had so far. 4, we have a lack of outdoor space and pedestrian safety. There's no park, playground, or safety green space nearby for children to play. This is not just a missing amenity, it's a wellness issue. And where Center Street, the nearest commercial area, is one of the most dangerous corridors in Boston for pedestrians. The city's own road diet study has showed frequent crashes, unsafe crossings, and dangerous speeds. Families, especially children, will be at risk just walking in the neighborhood. And as you'll notice on Center Street, there's no crosswalk at the end of Redlands Road. Also, number 5, elevated security risks at congregate shelters. A March 2025 statewide shelter security assessment led by former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis makes clear that the congregate family shelters are seeing an alarming rise in serious safety incidents. From 2022 to 24, the number of incidents, including assaults, threats, disturbances, and emergency responses, rose by 788% across the system. And according to the report, congregate settings like the one proposed for 5 Redlands Road had some of the highest rates of these incidents, with fewer than half of the shelters had any form of on-site security, and many lacked clear incident protocols and staff training. Shared living spaces and congregate facilities were cited as a major driver for disputes and safety risks. Without professional security, adequate supervision, and site-specific safety plans, placing 50 families in this building on a narrow street with no buffer introduces serious and avoidable risks to both residents and the surrounding neighborhood. Also, we have to look at the negative impact on middle-class families. We also must be honest about the economic impact. A 2021 University of Wisconsin-Madison study showed homes within 500 feet of a shelter saw property values drop between 7 and 12%. A similar University of Southern California study confirmed similar effects in Los Angeles, especially in quiet, low-density neighborhoods like this one's. This means residents, many of whom have worked hard to afford their homes, may see their property values decline and face economic hardship due to this change of use. Additionally, this process has lacked transparency. One concern is, why is the Abutters meeting happening after the long form's already been submitted and been denied? This should have happened first. We're also looking, again, to say, the site is physically and functionally unfit. And the plan moving forward without transparency or trust cannot happen. And this isn't about being opposed to a shelter. It's about making sure that we get it right for both the families in need and the people who live here. And we respectfully ask that the city take whatever steps it can to pause this proposal and work with the community to find a more suitable location.
Thanks, Patrick. To clear up your point, though, on the order of the abutters meeting, so you submit plans to the Inspectional Services Department. When you get the refusal letter, you are directed to ONS to start the community process. So that's very much in line with that.
Okay.
I want to make sure that people feel that this is a transparent process and that they are informed of next steps. So to reiterate, please contact. Ben has his contact information on the flyer. We can create a listserv and continue to update people as this progresses. So you highlighted a number of concerns. Kobe, Alex, if you guys want to tackle any of those or try to address those, please do.
I don't know if Paul, if you have any reactions to what Patrick had shared in terms of the use of the building. And Patrick, thank you. If you're able to share your letter, that would be wonderful and appreciate it. I don't know if, Paul, you want to speak to any of the authorized uses. I know Patrick had a number of points there.
Sure. So because the first floor is a conditional use, the ZBA will consider the size of it, and how many people are going to be accommodated, and all of that, as to whether.
So will the first floor be cordoned off from the rest of the building so it's not intermingled use? Because you're speaking specifically to the first floor versus the rest of the building. So how will they be separated?
Right. So it's not a question of separation, with all due respect, Patrick. The issue for this is that the second and third floor are allowed uses. Okay. So in this neighborhood business subdistrict, the use of.
So sorry, but just to point in the table, it says that a homeless shelter is a conditional use, not allowed. And this has been referred to in all the documentation as a homeless shelter.
Well,
So I'm just wondering how that's being parsed.
Well, my understanding is that the application is a congregate living complex. So I don't, I'm looking at table B, and that's what it provides. And it just references the first floor under that footnote 7 that I mentioned.
I'm looking to see, Steve, where do we get the information so I can dial into my computer so we can see it?
It's Article 56. If you go to Boston Zoning Code, Article 56.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, and I believe it's under table D.
Yeah.
That talks about the neighborhood shopping districts and conditional uses.
I'm gonna look at it on my computer. Yeah.
Guys, if we can just keep the background noise to a minimum. But yes, Patrick, you were saying?
And this is something we can follow up on. We don't have to take everybody's time right now.
Sure.
It's just another issue would like to follow.
Noted. Thank you. All right, we'll go next to John. I see your hand is raised.
I just want to say that I back up everything Patrick Shearns says about this project. It's the wrong site for a homeless shelter. And also, I am very curious about the argument why this is not to be categorized as a transitional housing or homeless shelter requiring a conditional use permit for the entire building. That's just what it says. That's what everybody on this call, that's how they've been describing this project. I don't understand, Attorney Rufo. I hope you can explain better.
Well, I'm just looking at the table B, and I'm looking at the letter from ISD, and this is what they've referred to, congregate living use, and I'm looking at table B, and I don't see homeless shelter transitional use as a neighborhood business subdistrict, as a so let's see, you got transitional housing and homeless shelter is a conditional use. Yeah, I see it now on page 2. Yep. So congregate living complex is defined differently than a transitional housing or homeless shelter. So again, that goes back to the use of it, which the folks at MOC have explained.
Is it possible that this project was miscategorized to ISD?
I'll chime in there. I'm not a zoning attorney. I can certainly check in with the plans examiner and just verify that, and we can share that information outwards. So
yeah, because all the documentation we've seen from the organization has referred to it as a homeless shelter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, on the refusal, it was listed as a family shelter in the description, which is what I shared essentially on. I think I added family shelter to the description on the flyer. So certainly I can speak with the plans examiner. We can try to ascertain what's the deal. Okay. Up next, we have a hand raised for 617-733-4046.
Hi, it's Mimi. I'm on my phone. I'm sorry. I was unable to hit the website. So I live in the neighborhood. I've been here for 53 years. And my thoughts are, Patrick, I agree with everything that you said, first of all. But the other thing that I just wanted to say, when you say 48 families, I mean, that's multiple children with the family. So the occupancy could be 150 people or more. And if you're trying to add 6 more rooms to that, there's an additional, we're talking up to maybe somewhere between 175 and 200 people. Does that sound accurate?
I can answer that. What you're referring to, those 6 rooms already are included in the 48 units for a number of families.
Well, first the 48, and then if you add 6 more to that, if it's 48 and there's.
I'm sorry, the 48 units in the building includes that first floor of 6 units.
Okay, all right. Okay, so, depending upon the family, is it a mom and dad, children, a mom and children, dad and children? What exactly is the plan for that?
You covered it. Could be mom and children, mom, dad and children, just dad and child. Could be single mom with 3 kids or a single mom with 1 kid. Could be mom and dad and 3 kids. And so it really depends on the family that is placed.
And at the prior meeting that I went to, they said that this was not permanent for the families, and they would have 6 months. Has that changed?
No, that's correct. That is, they have 6 months. That's a state law voted on by the legislative body.
And then after the 6 months, other families would come in.
They would either
Possibly
be exited from shelter, or they would have a extension of 1 month if they're in the process of obtaining a lease. But that would be it. They would only have a 1 month extension.
And if I recall from the prior meeting, this has to be renewed annually. It's a 5-year lease on it, but it has to be renewed annually. Is that correct?
No, our contract with HLC and all contracts with HLC are on an annual basis.
Okay. And are the families coming in, are the families that are going to be leaving the hotel? Who are the families, not by name, but where are they coming from?
They could be families coming from hotels, yes, or they could be families that are on the current contact list or wait list that the HLC is placing.
Okay. And one of my concerns, again, at the prior meeting was, I know that you said that folks would be queried coming in, but query is only for Massachusetts. It's not for surrounding states. And I don't know if there's any way that they can be sorted as well, because if you have 48 different families, it's difficult to say what could happen. I did childcare for many years, and as I stated at the meeting, I had to be query sorted and fingerprinted to take care of 6 children. And so as a family childcare educator, my concern is for the children that are in there and that they are protected. What are you going to do about that?
Yeah, the state handles the requirements in terms of the front door, and they do provide those background checks. It's something that we could talk about maybe more in our next community meeting that we have next month around that process and what it looks like at the front door for families coming into shelter. But they do background checks on families, and we have protocols in place at all the shelters to make sure families are safe from exterior and interior concerns.
Kobe, I think
Okay, thank you.
you had mentioned this prior. So children are defined as 18 years and younger, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Someone was asking about 21 plus, so it's 18 or under for children. All right. Tina, I see your hand is raised. If you'd like to go next.
Yeah, hi. It's actually Brian Kelly. I am speaking on behalf of my mother, who is 86 years old and lives on a budding property to the facility. You have to forgive me because I don't speak publicly a lot, so just give me a little bit of grace here. There are so many concerns that we all have as residents that abut the property. We all agree with what Pat has spoken about previously. But just on a smaller note, there is a smoking patio directly behind my mom's house that can be easily seen through the fence, which is a fence that has been there since I was a child and I climbed, and I'm 52 years old now. So when it comes to sound coming from that facility, it projects straight up into those neighborhood houses that are behind that facility. Since when I was a kid and that nursing home was there, and somebody would scream and yell in the middle of the nighttime from the facility as a nursing home, it would wake me up and scare me as a child. All right. Now I can't imagine what this will do to my 86-year-old mother when people are out back smoking at 2 o'clock in the morning, or even on a simpler note, shift changes with people that work there coming out. Somebody bumps into a car, drops their keys, car alarms go off. And the accessibility through that fence to the abutters property is very, very concerning to me. And besides just the noise alone that comes from there, you can't hear it right now. I wouldn't be able to share it with you on my phone, but there is a flyer that was given to everybody that says no construction is being done. Today, there is video that my mother took from inside the house of the sound that's coming from the construction from that facility today. She can hear it coming into the house loudly, and she says she can't even think straight. And there's another million things that concern us as residents that live in the neighborhood. Redlands Road is tiny. It cannot support this kind of a facility. It just can't do it. There will be too many vehicles. There will be too much traffic coming and going, even walking, coming and going. But the facility itself for parking and cars coming up and down Manthorn Road, Redlands Road, on Center Street, which is already a disaster. And somebody had already mentioned that this may be a facility for abused women or people trying to escape from destructive relationships. That is also very concerning to people who live in the community too. What if a bad actor who has chased one of these family members away decides that they want to park on my mother's street and then go in the back through the fence to get to that facility, trying to find somebody who's trying to hide from them? This neighborhood is just too small for this kind of a facility. There isn't anything that seems to work for a facility like this in this particular neighborhood. It just doesn't work. And I don't think you can get any one of us to agree that this is a good idea. Second, also, I'd like to say that if there is not at least a 12-foot wall, not a fence, wall behind all the abutting properties that cannot be broken through or cut through, or sound comes just drifting straight into your house. I think I'm missing a lot of things that I would like to say. But another thing is that there's new residents coming in every 6 months, which they have no investment into that neighborhood, which it very much is a neighborhood, that we've worked hard to keep a safe and inclusive neighborhood. If they don't have any kind of investment in the neighborhood, if they're coming and going every 6 months, 150 people every 6 months. I mean, that's a lot of people coming into your neighborhood that nobody knows. And I think that's it for me for right now. I mean, there's a lot more things that I think I'm missing out on right now. I just can't. I do not agree with this facility at all. I think there is definitely better places in the city of Boston that this facility would thrive and do so much better than where you're trying to put it right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing those points. Before we next little comment, Kobe or Alex, could you guys talk about the parking situation? That's kind of been a concern that we've heard people talk about is coming and going, or would cars be on site, or would families not be bringing their car? I think also if you could also explain what work has been done so far on the building. I know someone had mentioned trees being taken down as well. So if you could just quickly kind of outline those points.
Sure. So from a landscaping perspective, there were 3 trees removed on our property that were tilting towards the building. We took those out as a safety precaution and installed 5 new dogwood trees that will grow upright and will grow over the
You
years.
took about 10 trees out of the back of my house, 12 Manthon Road.
Yeah, no, we took 3 trees down, and then a neighbor actually contracted our tree vendor to take an oak tree out of their property. But we
one tree.
We replaced the 3 trees with 5 new dogwood trees, added some shrubbery in the back. We realized that parking is valuable in the city of Boston, and we're working to maximize the parking area in the back. So we don't have an accurate number of parking spaces to provide you with a number tonight. However,
I thought it was 15.
we
You'll
we
never
are
get 15 cars in there.
no
I
we
think
are
if
we
we
are
can,
finalizing the driveway now with asphalt. So in the coming days, we should have a solid number. But we do realize that off-street parking is valuable for
So,
the
I don't mean to
reservation.
interrupt you, but what about the trash removal? And are the dumpsters they're going to be a compactor, or are they going to be picked up daily, weekly, when? Because like we've said before, we've had terrible problems with rodents coming from that area.
Mhm. So for
What is the
trash,
plan? What is the plan for removal of the trash and securing the area and making sure it's clean?
good question. So we have a secure spot for a garbage container that's secured, and that's going to be removed, I believe, on a weekly basis. So
Enough.
there shouldn't be any rodent activity, and I believe MOC will be contracting a pest management company to treat the area continuously.
okay.
Yeah, Alex is correct, and we will change the garbage pickup to meet whatever need it needs to be. If it needs to be twice a week, we will do that to ensure that the garbage is properly being disposed of. And we have a full-time maintenance person on site who we've also brought in vendors to quote the property to have regular pest control as we have at all of our other sites, especially our congregate sites. We understand the need to manage the pest piece, and so we will be doing through our vendor.
Right. Just a quick point. I think you got to hit the ground running with the pest control, not after people move in, but before they move in, because there's still, vermin problems from down the bottom of the hill. We experienced a lot of rodents, even up the top of the hill. I'm 16 houses up the top of the hill on the right, up near Sherma. And when the restaurants closed down and the dumpsters filled up and the nursing home closed down in February of, I believe it was 2022, a little over, just about 3.5 years ago, they came marching up the hill. It was insane. So I would say that you have to really handle the mitigation right out of the gate and not wait until people move in.
Thank you, James. We'll go next to the folks that have their hands raised. They've been waiting for a bit now. Kay Ellen, if you'd like to go next.
Hi, thank you. I apologize. This is my first meeting. I just found out about it. I have 25 years on Manthorn Road. And just obviously this is very concerning to me. So did I hear correctly? Do you already have an opening date and a move-in date?
So I think they had aimed to start in mid-July. They're still very much in the community process, so no one's going to be moving in for July.
So it hasn't been approved right now.
Yep, nothing has been approved yet, which is why they're in this community process now. So eventually they would have a zoning board of appeals hearing date. There would be a public notice that would go out to all property owners within 300 feet. And then, as I stated before, if people reach out to Ben we can create a listserv and we can notify people when that hearing date is. So.
Okay.
Sorry,
So-
Connor, I understand people are, I'm sorry, they're moving in furniture currently, including beds and mattresses and all kinds of stuff. Is
Yep.
that, sorry.
How is that possible?
Yes, they are. Start today. I live 2 doors down from the nursing home.
Okay. So Kobe, Alex, is that?
How is that possible? Yeah.
Well, we are preparing the site. This is something that we do in all of our shelter locations where we bring in furniture and furnish and outfit the site to match the need for the number of units that we would be having at the site. So yes,
Not
we are.
approved, you're gonna just move everything out of it? You do all that work and that expense, and if it's not approved, it just gets taken away?
Well, this meeting in particular is really for the first floor that we're discussing in terms of the use. And I think, Paul, you kind of mentioned that at the beginning. And so the floors above, we're doing work in the whole building.
Have they been permitted separately?
That's something Paul can speak to.
Yeah, no, under the zoning code, as I mentioned, it's table B, and the zoning code refusal that we received, congregate living use is an allowed use above the first floor.
So are you saying that if this doesn't go through, it'll still open on the upper floors, but the bottom floor will not be used for living? Is that where we're at?
They don't know.
So I think there's some confusion there where I stated earlier where we're going to speak with ISD, the plans examiner, to kind of verify if a homeless shelter or family shelter, whatever you want to call it, is an allowed use for the rest of the building, or is it truly just for the first floor, which is, I think, the understanding of the applicant. So we will try to clear that up with ISD and ascertain. I'm not a zoning attorney and I'm not a plans examiner, so I'd have to verify with ISD.
Okay, and then just 2 more quick ones, because I know that it's a lot, but
Nope,
so no one from ISD, no one from the state that's going to actually be the ones to check on who moves in there, or the process, or the number of people. No one in any of those are on this call tonight to answer anything?
Correct. Yeah, I don't. There's no state representatives here, or I should say.
Can I ask a quick question? Is there an assembly permit that's needed for this space? Is there going to be more than 50 people in one area?
Well, so it's 48 units proposed, so it would be more than 50 people theoretically.
But in a common area, if you have more than 49 people, you need an assembly permit.
Mike, I personally spoke with Boston Fire, and assembly permit's not needed. But thank you for expressing your concern.
And what did Boston Fire tell you?
Boston Fire mentioned that we do not need an assembly permit.
Okay. Thank you.
There isn't a specific room, if I can just jump in, there isn't a specific room, as I understand the plans, where more than 50 people congregate. So that's what they're looking at there. And I guess I'd have to ask Colby if you have any, been trying to figure out the difference between a congregate living complex and transitional housing or homeless shelter. And the congregate living complex appears to be for a bit longer stay. You mentioned 6 months. I haven't looked at the state regulations. I don't know if you have anything on that. If you don't, that's okay. I mean to put you on the spot, but it seems like transitional housing homeless shelter is for much shorter stay. Is that part of it, Colby?
Yeah, this is a congregate site. Families will be sharing space. They will be there up to 7 months with an extension, and so they're not moving in and then moving out tomorrow. They do need supports. A lot of families are coming to us that they might have lost their employment. They might have no credit. They might really be struggling, and it does take sometimes 6-7 months to get them off the ground. Prior to the state law being passed, it was a 9-month stay with a 6-month extension, and so it has kind of been cut down over the course of a couple of years as the system has expanded. And so this is not by any means transitional. This is someone's going to be with us for 6 to 7 months.
Colby, if you don't mind, real quick, I just because of MOC, what are the other locations that you guys run?
Yeah, so we were in a bunch of hotels in Concord, Gardner, Westminster.
Me and the Gardner facility.
Excuse me?
Just as a comp, my brother-in-law passed away a couple weeks ago, and I was up in Gardner, and I went by the hotel up there, and I believe it's the one over near where the plaza is, Ocean State Job Lot, and Anthony's Liquors, and there's a couple of gas stations over there. I know that it had been a hotel. I didn't know that it was a mock property now. But to just get a comp, you're saying that we're going to have about 150 people down the bottom of the hill here. I know the size of that hotel. I know it pretty well. I'd like you to let me know how many people are living in that particular facility.
About the same size. It's about 40, I believe it's a 48 unit site. So it's actually, I think, very similar size. We also have Air and Acton were very similar size hotels. Our Concord site was 102 units, so about double that size. We had an Auburn site that was 99 units. Our Milford site was 62 units. We have a site in Shrewsbury and a site in Northborough that are a little bit larger than this site. And we
This
also
isn't
have
a hotel,
congregate
though.
sites.
And Colby, could you just said, because you said earlier that these would be people from the community, we would help bring our own community out. Can you give me some of the demographics on some of those people that were in that, and maybe some crime statistics as well?
So I'll speak to the piece around the state pushes to place families within a certain geographic range of where they become homeless from. And so a lot of families in our shelter program right now, they're being bused into Boston on a daily, well, now that school's out, they were being bused into Boston for school almost on a daily basis. And so that's an expense to the community, number one. And it's also that's a burden on the child who has to ride the bus 45 minutes, 1 hour one way into school every morning.
But
And
where,
so,
where are you getting that information? Bust into school from where?
Brandon, can we let him finish his point and then
Yeah.
we can come back to your follow-up question? I want to have us talking over each other. So Colby, go next.
yeah, in our program, we have over 1,000 youth, and a majority of them are all school-age kids. And so that's just a statistic in an experience that we've had being a shelter provider over the course of the last many years. And so this is an experience we have where a lot of families are being bussed in because of just the need. The homeless capacity increased, the 7,500 units over the course of the last 2 years. And now we have certainly, cut back on our hotel sites, but we still have a plenty of homeless families that are in our shelter program in Western sites that are Boston residents. And we're moving a lot of families out of our shelter program into Boston permanent housing. And so this has always been our experience as a provider, and it certainly makes sense for HLC to contract a site that is outside of Boston or in Boston proper.
We still have a ton of hands raised, so I want to go through this. I think so. All right, we have up next Honora. Your hand is raised. If you'd like to go next.
Yeah, hi. My name is Honor Inanoglu, 34 Redlands. Just want to start saying that I share all the concerns and then comments of my, neighbors. I just want to kind of understand. It looks like there's going to be a direct impact, to the abutting, neighborhood, but there's going to be also indirect impact to the West Roxbury community. Have you guys done some sort of like an impact study to understand, what kind of a burden this is going to put on the school system, local amenities, hospitals? I mean, I understand that, the proximity to the certain, public transportation is one of the considerations and so on and so forth. But I just want to kind of understand, how you guys make this site, fitting the criteria. If you guys did any impact studies and stuff like that, could you guys share it with us? Thank you.
Colby, I wonder if maybe you can speak to Honor's question in terms of what considerations went into making the site appealing for the intended use. And Honor, nice to see you again. I know you had shared a similar question previously.
Yeah, this is really a site that the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities works with us to coordinate that meets their values. And so I know we talked about this maybe last week or the week before during our community advisory group meeting around what values really fit into what HLC looks for in a site. And this site, you know, did check all those boxes for them, especially being close to public transportation, being in the Boston School District, having ample amount of walkability, stores, commercial jobs. The resources in the neighborhood are just abundant in terms of being able to get families on their feet and back into permanent housing and self-sufficient. So those are the value pieces that work in a program, and we have experience
Where
finding.
are the jobs, or what's that jobs data point?
Patrick, I'm sorry. I I was
Sorry to
trying
interrupt
to.
you. I was just asking about the jobs and like where these jobs are that all these people are going to be working in. And I haven't seen any reports of like, specific job openings in with the West Roxbury area. So is there new businesses coming in? I mean, the paper store is closing, for example. So businesses are closing in the area. Where are these jobs that are nearby?
Yeah,
This
I
is a
took a walk on
I'm
Center
not trying
Street,
to
you
call you
know,
out.
when I was doing a walk around the neighborhood. And there's plenty of postings in terms of jobs available. And our families use every resource available to find jobs, whether it be Indeed, LinkedIn, you know, that they're on job boards. We have a computer station in the building and all of our shelter sites. We have case managers that work with families to help them with resume prep and get back into the workforce if they're not. A lot of families actually already are employed, and because they go from Boston to a Western or another region for shelter, they lose employment. And so refinding employment is hard if they can't transfer that employment off into the next community. And so that is why it's really critical that when families become homeless in the Boston area, they're able to maintain their employment by being placed in a shelter such as in West Roxbury, where they might already be working in the community.
Can I just go in? I mean, I asked the same question last time, and I still don't think that I got my answer. I was talking specifically to the impact to the community. I understand that Colby's talking about the criteria this site fits into, into this purpose, but I still don't understand, if our community has the enough resources to just like absorb all these people at once, and then just like using and sharing all these with the rest of the West Roxbury residents. That was my question that I haven't gotten an answer yet.
So I don't think there's been a holistic impact study. Would you say Colby or Molly?
Yeah,
You know,
I was going to say, I think last week the answer to the question was no, there has not been an impact study done, but Colby was speaking to the criteria that they considered and what makes this site functional for the congregate shelter use.
Okay. All right, up next we have Stephen Marsh. Stephen?
Hey, so my comment is to the city representatives. It sounds like the information presented in this meeting is that the claim by MOC is that this use is permitted on the second floor under the idea that it's a communal center, even though that a homeless shelter in a transient facility is expressly forbidden. And so your claim is that this is not a transient facility, it's not a homeless shelter. Is that correct? And if it was, it would not be allowed. Do you agree with that?
Stephen, I think the purpose of this call and the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the first floor conditional use. So, if you'd like to direct your comments to Connor in regards to anything outside of that, I think that's, probably the best.
Yeah, Alex, I can take this. So, Stephen, as I've said a couple of times on this meeting here tonight, is that I'm not a plans examiner. I will speak with the plans examiner from ISD and try to get an ascertain, is that an allowed use for the upper levels? Is this, as described in the refusal letter, does it really just count for the first floor? So I'm happy to look into that and I can share that information outward. But as I've stated before,
okay, but I think that it could be pretty simple just for you to say this your legal claim is that this is not a homeless shelter and this is not a transient facility.
I'm here to facilitate the meeting. I'm not a housing expert. I can't.
Okay, so then maybe that question is for MOC. Is this a homeless shelter? Yes or no? Is it a transient facility? Yes or no?
Stephen, I think it's unfair to put MOC on the spot when the whole purpose of this call is to discuss the zoning variance that is required and what we're going.
This is excuse me, with all due respect, this directly relates to the zoning variance. And so, the legal argument that I heard today was that this is a legally permitted use for the second floor that only the first floor is under contention, but that premise is based off the fact that this is not a homeless shelter. And one of that is, I think, a ridiculous claim. Everything that we've seen up until this point has said that this is a family homeless shelter and it is a transient use. So the idea that, I guess if a transient homeless shelter is not allowed at that facility, then this, I think, whole project is dead in the water. And I guess my comment to the city representatives would be that this is not allowed, despite sort of the legal maneuvering that we're trying to see today. This is not allowed, and there's no reason for the city to change the zoning to allow it.
So let me speak to that because, with all due respect to your conclusion that homeless shelter is not allowed is incorrect. It's a conditional use. Okay, so it's not F, which would be forbidden. And as I mentioned before, the transitional housing of homeless shelter, and I'm looking at the definitions here, uses the word temporary. Okay, and that's as opposed to longer term. So the code itself doesn't have, and I'm searching different places, but it doesn't have a length of time that distinguishes between temporary and a 6 to 7 month stay or whatever Colby had mentioned. But just based upon at least my experience in dealing with homeless shelters, et cetera, from a zoning point of view, those are places where folks who live on the street go to get out of the cold or get out of the extreme heat or to get a meal, and they may stay the night, et cetera, and they may receive some services, whether it's healthcare or that kind of guidance, and then they leave. This congregate living complex is something I think that again, I'm not operating it, but just trying to understand the differences between congregate living complex and what ISD was looking at here in the plans and in the written proposal, is a longer term housing arrangement for these families that.
With all due respect, Attorney Rufo, that's absurd. This is a homeless shelter. The only time, Colby just used for the first time up to 7 months. We've never heard that before. Folks are coming in for a very short term. Hopefully they're in for a few weeks and out. The idea that this is a congregate facility is ridiculous.
That's what was said at the meeting.
And I'll just be clear, I'm going to challenge it.
Well, and I think this is the most important aspect of this meeting, because there's going to be follow-up conversations with the zoning board, and we need to know, what is your claim? Are you saying that this is not a transient facility and this is not a homeless shelter? That's your claim, and that's why it's allowed. Can we at least get you to say that?
Well, the application was for congregate living use, congregate living complex, and that's what the ISD reviewed and issued its decision on that.
So when the zoning board is reviewing this application, and if you see things that make it look like it is a homeless shelter, it's fair to say that would lead them to conclude that we should not, right?
You can't hear over the noise. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's some background chatter. Stephen, can you go again, please?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, as the zoning board is reviewing this proposal, if they see things that indicate that it is a homeless shelter, that it's fair to say that would lead them to conclude that they should not approve it. Is that fair?
So it's an independent board. They'd have to take a look at what's being proposed. They take a look at what feedback is from direct abutters, elected officials, et cetera. Like I said, I will speak with the plans examiner. We'll try to get some more clarity, because I know there's some confusion on how it's actually classified under the zoning code. So happy to clear that up, but I can't make any predictions on what the zoning board of appeals would take a stance on. It varies completely. It's an independent board. Patrick, I know your hand is raised, so I will go to you quick. We're winding down here at time.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick here. Just a couple of things. According to the executive, a couple points of clarity. According to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, a child is defined as somebody up to 21 years old. And my understanding is that this program or this MOC is operating under the Emergency Assistance Family Shelter Program under the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Just wanted to verify if that's correct, because I know you said 18, but if it is an emergency assistance family shelter in accordance with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, wouldn't you be required to have quote unquote children up to the age of 21 instead of 18?
Depends on the household composition. So it depends if there's another child in the household under the age appropriate, under the age of 18. So that is where HLC, does have some flexibility around household composition. And so we're not going to pick a family out of shelter.
Because they have children over 18.
Under.
Right.
So
Also, is this
depends on the
operating
family.
under the Emergency Assistance Family Shelter Program?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Brian, I see your hand is raised. I just want to call on some folks that have not gone yet. So we'll go Carolyn Coffey, then we'll go Mary Karski. So Carolyn.
Hi. I'm not going to belabor the points made by my neighbors, but they are excellent points. I think other than the obvious, the schools, the traffic, jobs. I don't have cars. Concern is, hold on, I just lost my train of thought. I believe the shelter is just too big for a small neighborhood, in a residential neighborhood particularly. Now, with all the vacancies in Boston, especially downtown, people are leaving the city, businesses are empty, offices are empty. I don't see why you're forcing this on a small neighborhood, especially on Redlands. It's just, the most ridiculous spot to have a shelter of this magnitude. I mean, there's so many empty buildings. Why do you force this on this neighborhood? Makes no sense at all. And I feel like the city, as usual, does their railroading. They send in all the suits and the MBAs to try to ram it down our throat. We don't want it. It's inappropriate. And it needs to be located on a non-residential street, on a big acre somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. My goal is not to railroad anything. My goal is to run an efficient community process where neighbors are aware of the proposal and have an opportunity to be heard and ask questions. So noted. Mary, we'll go to you next.
Hi, Connor. Thank you so much. I just have a quick question for Colby. Like he mentioned all these other sites he has. Are any of them in residential areas like this one's going to be? Just, they seem like they were in hotels and places like that.
Yeah, some hotels that we have are we actually are in Watertown. We have a site there we just shut down, and it's right there's people's backyards touching the hotel, and so we do have sites that have a residential feel to them just based on walking outside and you're in someone's backyard. So yes, to answer your question.
And how did they work out? Like as far as disruption or any kind of
really no complaints. And we have a great program team that supports families to really understand the expectation and the rules around how to be a good neighbor. And that's what we do with all of our families is we onboard them, we bring them in. We have, one-on-ones with them around, what the rules of the shelter are. And we make sure that they're following those rules or they will not maintain shelter status.
And we all want to see everybody have a place to live. But I just feel like Patrick made a lot of good points. And I think there's a lot of things that have to be worked out before this community can take this on. I think there's too many red flags. So maybe we can look into that if we could.
Be more than happy to have a one-on-one with you in your office, Mary, as well. Just to discuss, our experience and what we've done in communities that we've gone into in supported shelter programs.
Thank you. And Colby, can you talk about the Watertown one you mentioned is closing? What is the reason for that?
It's a hotel shelter, and all the hotel shelters are closing in the next month.
Gotcha. Okay. This is a broader change at the state level. All right. Thank you. John, you've had your hand raised for a while. I don't know if you just kept it up or if you have further comments, but John, you've been waiting patiently if you'd like to go next.
I have one easy question for you, Connor. Can we submit comments by email?
100%. Yes, actually, that is the best way to send comments because I have it exactly in your words versus me taking it down freehand. So Ben's contact information is on the flyer. I will drop my email in the chat as well. You can send comments our way, and we take all of the comments and we share those with the Zoning Board of Appeals so the board members can take into account statements from the public. It's also a public hearing as well. So like I said, a notice will go out to property owners within 300 feet. But we can also do an email blast out to broader people who sign up and express interest, and we can give you information on how to participate. So Ben also plugged, you can send comments directly to ZBA. If you send them directly to ZBA, we don't have access to that, so we can't reference that in our testimony. But if you send it to us, we 100% share it with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So
Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was a nice and quick one. Brian, we'll go back to you.
Yeah, hi. I just have one final thing to say is that, like you just said, that Watertown facility closed. Nobody has brought this up yet, and you can tell me as many times as you want that how successful these other facilities that you have been and are. But just for the fact, knowing that the Watertown facility is closed, if this is not a success on Redlands Road, and it stays a homeless shelter, what comes next? That's one of the biggest concerns that I have as a resident of Manthorne Road. What comes next in my backyard? My mother, like I said, is 86 years old. She wants to live for a very long time, but she has a limited time left on this earth. And if she could speak right now, she would say she does not want to live what little time left she has on this earth in confusion and fear and unknowing of what's going to happen if this facility closes. What comes next?
Brian, I can hop in and answer that. So I just want to state for the record that prior owners had proposed a residential development. They sold the property and we assumed ownership the fall of 24. We were approached by several different use groups and ultimately decided to partner with Making Opportunity Count for a few reasons. One, we believe in their mission. Two, they have an incredible team from the top to bottom. And three, we believe MOC will be a net positive to the community. So with that, we were approached by several different use groups and decided MOC best fit for the community to be a long-term partner to the West Roxbury and Boston neighborhood.
But again, like I said, you can say that to me 100 more times, but the facility will or might eventually still close, no matter how you think they'll do so well. But when it does, what comes next? That's what I'm most concerned of. You know what I mean? And like I said, a million other things. And I will close by saying, as a resident of Manthorne Road, speaking for my mother's behalf, this facility cannot be put into work. It will not work in this neighborhood at all. It's just not the right place for this type of facility. The privacy issues alone with the sound coming from that facility will just absolutely ruin the last few years of my mother's life. And along with other people that abut this property, I'm sure they're very concerned. So I am against this facility 100%. So is my mother. And that's all that I would like to say right now. Thank you.
Brian. All right. It's at the 8:30 mark. We'll end with JP. I just want to say, though, I saw a comment in the chat about why are people notified just within 300 feet. So that is how the Commonwealth defines who are legal abutters. That is, every municipality, the Zoning Board of Appeals, notices go out to abutters, property owners within the 300 feet. Why it's important that if you would like to be kept in the loop of this project, you reach out to our office, either myself or Ben. We can have that listserv and we can give you updates when there are future meetings and future steps in the community process. So, JP, we'll go with you. I'm sorry. There's been a lot of questions here tonight, a lot of information for the applicants team to kind of stew over and come up with solutions. I know they're doing another meeting in July. I don't know if that's in person or not, but the community conversation is going to continue. But JP, I'll give you the last comment of the night if you want to go ahead. JP, your hand is raised. Okay. We'll go with, I have the phone number. Oh, JP, you're up. You're unmuted. Go next.
Hi, how you doing? My name is JP. I'm on Willow Street, and I have a couple of questions. What's the maximum capacity of the building? As most nursing homes have 1 to 2 occupants per room, and you're putting families in these rooms, so that's going to at least make it 2 to 5 people in each room.
JP, so to answer your question, the building was constructed as a nursing home. And if you look at the definition of a nursing home in the International Building Code, it's actually listed as an institutional 2 use. The building is fully sprinklered and has a full alarm system. We're changing the occupancy down to I1, which corresponds with congregate living facility. That is a less of a hazard than a nursing home. So everything that the building was constructed of for the nursing home meets or exceeds the requirements of that of a congregate living facility.
And I think, so JP is probably looking for an exact number. So I think we talked about it yet that the ISD and the fire department would make a determination on what's the total capacity based off of the health code. So to your knowledge, Alex, you've not been given that number yet from the fire department or from ISD, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So
how can we be this far along without knowing that number? Without knowing how many people we can actually put in that building safely? How can we know that we're doing that without having that number already?
Well, in the city, isn't there a requirement that if there are 2 or more people sharing a room, there's supposed to be at least 60 square feet per person under the congregate living rules in the municipal code?
I don't know the exact details of that code. I've had conversations with ISD. Mostly the community meetings I'm having are for smaller residential homes. So this is kind of a unique one for me. So I think it varies on the square footage. I think there's different ways to interpret it from what I understand. But I couldn't tell you the exact details on that. So like I said, I have a list of questions for ISD, so we can add that to one. JP, commonly for these residential questions, I often have residents ask, oh, well, could you have, 5 college students living in each bedroom? And that's a topic of conversation that's discussed endlessly. Usually that number is not given during the Abutters meeting, but I can certainly look into that for you. If you can send your contact information to Ben, we can set that up.
Okay, and as pertains to the jobs, I have a 14-year-old that's able to work. He can't get a job in West Roxbury. How will you propose that these 48 plus family members are going to be able to get jobs ranging from adults to teens?
Yeah, I can't speak for everybody's individual situation in terms of their employment status and what their career outlook looks like. But I can speak to our families. They're resilient. They want to be employed. They're either getting job training. They're in the workforce. A lot of them have jobs already. A lot of them are going back to school to obtain employment. So there is a wide range. It's difficult to put one answer to this, but it really just is up to the individual and what they're looking for in their outlook.
Right, but the jobs aren't there in West Roxbury to sustain West Roxbury residents, never mind bringing in 48 other families.
Depends on what you're looking to do. Retail, hospitality, there's plenty of jobs. I did a quick Google search on Indeed, and there is jobs, and especially West Roxbury. You get on the T, and you can be in another community for any other employment opportunity.
So any 14 to 16-year-old kid in West Roxbury that's out of school for the summer, wants to get a summer job, you're saying that they've got to go to another community because we've got families coming in to this homeless shelter, hostel, whatever we may want to call it today, that need jobs that are going to take those jobs. Roach Brothers won't hire a kid because they're looking for full-time employment. Star Market won't hire a kid because they're looking for full-time employment. None of these businesses in West Roxbury will hire the 14 to 16-year-old kid, which has always been one of the mainstays of West Roxbury, what it has done for the community going on 40 years. I grew up in West Roxbury, and every kid in West Roxbury had a job in the summer. They worked for Roach Brothers, Star Market, True Value, all these stores up and down the street. I owned a store in West Roxbury. I hired teens that were in the area. It's not happening anymore, and now you're putting in families that are looking for jobs, adults that are looking for jobs, that are going to take these jobs from these kids, so these kids can't develop as young adults and learn how to manage their own money, be responsible, have a job.
Sure. So JP, I would encourage you to reach out to Ben, your West Roxbury liaison. He can walk you through the mayor's summer jobs program. There's a lot of good opportunities there, but it's 8:36. We're kind of getting off topic here. So I appreciate everyone attending here tonight for the hour and 37-minute meeting that we've had. There's been a lot of good questions here. There's clear that there's a strong appetite for more information, and also there's serious concerns from residents. So as stated, I've shared my contact information in the chat. Ben's contact information is right there, Joe. Ben's contact information is also in the chat as well. So please reach out to us. We can keep you on the listserv. We can keep you informed as they continue through the community process. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you all.
great meeting. Nope, we answered.